question before us this morning concerns the arhat, or the avatar, or the individual who has not only given complete dedication of their life unto the highest purpose, but also, in addition to having given their all to the highest purpose, has accepted the highest purpose within themselves as the lodestone that they will use in directing the course of their life. We observe a river from above as a bird flying over the water, and we see the meandering of the stream. But sometimes we do not realize the simple mathematical formula that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And so what do? We are meandering through the land from the source beginning to the end, or the ocean of being. You see, this happens to us, but yet the mathematical law remains: the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Narrow is the gate and straight is the way, and few there be that find it, the Master Jesus said. Isn't it true? Yet, although we have all this direction before us, we sometimes forget it, and we take this winding, sinuous, stream-like road through the land, and then we lament and bemoan the fact that our progress is not swifter. Who is to blame for our progress, God or ourselves? Yet we say that we are God. And so the transfer of the torch of divine authority comes to us, and it comes to us with great clearness. There is a duality manifest in man. There is an id, an identity, a selfhood, which we can either utilize for the glories of the ephemeral, of the temporal, or we can put it into the framework of the eternal. The avatar has done this. The avatar always will do this. And so those of you who are here, dedicated to the purposes of the eternal, should understand that the happenings in your life that occur are somewhat in your own control. For example, in a recent pearl, the great ascended master Ilarion revealed in the almost perfect manner of St. Paul his thinking about the darkness in ourselves. In other words, the darkness does not always come from the level of the demon. Although it may have been at one time demon-inspired, satanic, the darkness in people comes from the namby-pamby, willy-nilly attitudes that we sometimes show toward ourselves, our failures to reject what we ought to reject, and our failures to accept what we ought to accept, and our failures to understand this law of the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. It is ourselves. It is the darkness we allow or permit to permeate our being. It is not permanent. It will not remain permanent, because the chastisement of life, whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, will occur, and every son that he receiveth will be scourged, because the scourging is for the sake of the purification of the man or the woman. When you chastise your child, why do you do it? You chastise your child for love's sake. You have and you feel love for the child. Can you believe that God would do otherwise? For 1 minute, could you imagine that God would chastise? Yet God is all things here. He is not only the God of complete love in the highest octave, he is also the God of justice, justice being one of his qualities. And as a part of divine justice, it is not just that God wants to exact his Shylock pound of flesh and say, you did it, you'll have to clean it up. That's not the idea. What God is concerned with is not punitive. The chastisement of heaven is to make us aware. It is like the spur that the rider wears with which he chastens the horse. He goads us into action. He shows us clearly that this straight line is before us, and he shows us that we have taken the winding and devious course. Do you see? So there is no chastisement from heaven. Perhaps, in one sense of the word, the God aspect of ourselves is what really acts to chasten us. Because he has said, mine eyes are too pure to behold iniquity. So God doesn't dwell upon the darkness, temporal, ephemeral darkness of our world. I think that all of you expect to see a gradual improvement, do you not, in this place? Don't you expect an improvement to occur? Don't you expect an improvement to occur in us? Of course you do, and I do too. We all expect that our attitudes toward the world will become more like the Master's. And so this is exactly what is going to take place within us. But it does take place, and is taking place. Step by step, we are being led to greater evolutions. But of course these things are not charted. You cannot chart this journey on paper as you would if you were to make a safari to the Sahara Desert. These things are charted by the eyes of the soul, and the eyes of the soul are not open in many. And so we look, we gaze upon what is happening in the world, what is happening to ourselves, what's happening to our fellow men, and we do not see all the progress that occurs, nor do we often see the retrogression that occurs in some people. These things are subtle, and all should understand the meaning of subtle, because that is what subtle is. It is almost hidden. In fact, it may be hidden. And it is the uncovering of the depth of our progress that is very momentous. This is a great gift from heaven to all of us. It is a magnificent gift. Just think that we are making progress. I think it's wrong for people to have an arrogant progress that looks down on their fellow men. I see this in religious work all the time. That people have an elite society, and when the neophyte comes into this society, the neophyte is made to feel that he is now talking to the great initiate. And the great initiate bows down, or deigns to bow down his head a little bit, and he says, one day you'll know, but now you don't. Yet the same thing could be said by the Master. Do you see what I mean? This is subtlety. I mean, if the Master said it, one day you'll know, it would be true. And so we see that subtlety deals with truth, and it also deals with truth mounted on the staff of error. People whose lives are not really complete and still remain relatively imperfect, who have just started on the path, certainly have no right toward arrogance toward other people just beginning in the same position they are, practically. Yet why do they do this? What is the reason, the motivation behind it? It is ignorance. And so we want none of our people here in this activity to feel any false sense of security, any false sense of ignorance that will act in their world so that they can be patronizing to the man or woman that comes in here. Be like a child. Be like a Lamb of God. Be like the Lamb of God that taketh away the sins of the world. You don't have to do anything more than be cuddly and woolly. Because that is what it means. You are that, you see. You don't have to look down on them from the mountaintop and say, you vile creature, you sinner down there. I was once there, of course, but I've forgotten it now because I am a part of all the loftiness of heaven. No. Be the servant of all, as the Master taught. Wash their feet, wash their consciousness. Let them tell you how wise they are. Listen, and don't always talk. And then, when you do talk, try to let it be some sweet and simple words of love and advice that they can appreciate, but not given in the patronizing manner. That is the problem in the world today, the world of religion. People have made of religion a commodity to be marketed in the bazaars. They stretch their great bazaars out before the people, and then they say, we have a greater commodity. When there is only one God, and we all share and drink into the life that he gives to us. Man has an inclination and tends to be very, very sonorous and sound off to tell everyone how great the teachings that he has are. Because there is the prerogative of simply gazing at something and saying, this is mine, this is my church, my pastor, my religion, my God, me, mine, but often not ours. So we say today, our Lord, and we say it not of the Summit Lighthouse, but of the world, and also of the Summit Lighthouse, because then it truly is ours. The world is in great darkness today, and great dangers of darkness, and the chastening hand of heaven will rest upon the world. Fear not. Let us not hasten the day, but hasten the day of mercy, because he is a jealous God, showing mercy unto thousands of them that love him and keep his commandments. This is true. And I believe that his mercy endureth forever, and I believe that his mercy is functional even in the domain of the chastening. We come here then both to be chastened and to be healed, because the Master, who has said, let that which is lame and that which is halt and that which is blind be healed. Let it be turned back on the pathway of the divine. That's the whole of it, don't you see? It's not to remain as a little ball that is rolled into a slot, a rut. The only difference between a rut and a grave is one of depth. Remember that. So let's not roll into these slots and say this is a niche that I can't get out of. I was watching this morning as our tiny little one tried very desperately to turn over. This for her was a colossal task, one which she cannot yet do, although almost. And I say to myself now, how prone we are to take for granted the potentials we have of movement and of life and the qualities of life within ourselves. And how little appreciation we sometimes feel for even the ability to manipulate and to move our physical body and to move the great ship of the mind out into the ocean of the mind. To be able to raise the sails and watch as they billow out and as movement occurs. For we journey into the infinite, but an infinite that is not understood is not a journey. Do you see? Going somewhere when we know not the way is of very little value. And being someone is the key that will take us where we want to go. Because it will show us the way and reveal not only the scenery on the path, but our identification with it. The identification of each one of us with God is the most key and important factor of our lives. This great mystery, this enigma, this obscurity now becomes the light. It is the light. The meaning of the white stone that no man knoweth, saving he that receiveth it, is seen in this concept. The white stone upon the path is clear. It is a stone that is as long as the path and as short as the journey. For the journey may be short or long. It matters not. And the stone, the rock of the ages, will be secure beneath our feet. Only the debris we place upon the rock can become the mud and slime upon which we slip upon the rock. It's the debris that we place there, that we allow to be placed in our pathway, the impediments that we permit to be placed in the pathway of others. I have thought and I have pondered in the name of heaven upon the situations involving this world. And I have seen the clashes in the name of religion, all the way from the Crusades unto the present time. Those circumstances in the name of Christ which are calculated to bring death and every quality into the world that is not the quality of the Prince of Peace. And I asked myself, as I'm sure you have asked yourself, how long, O Lord, and why? But yet, many of us have been caught in the net of this, both in this life as well as in previous lives. We have been caught in these nets, the innuendos that are thrust upon the world, upon all in the world, that are the delaying tactics of God realization, of the avatar, of the Son of God. It seemed very far, perhaps, when first we heard or read the words, "Truly, this man was the Son of God." This was spoken by the cross. Truly, this man was the Son of God. What a delight it should be to our soul today to realize that this is also spoken of us. That the immaculate example given by Jesus and by other avatars, his brothers and sons of God also, upon the spiritual path, in the great diorama of history, all are examples to us, so that we may be examples to an age to come. It is folly for us to seek a memorial of stone and wood and brass. Rather, let us make a memorial of our lives, so that God may inhabit our lives. Then it does not matter what the world may say of us, because even now it matters only what he says of us and what he thinks of us. And he thinks within you. This is one of the strangest things you have ever heard. But the guilt in man, the guilt that man feels sometimes for his own errors and mistakes, is a chastening to heaven itself. Because God has to think within the molds and matrices you create. Some portion of himself, be it ever so tiny, must encase itself in the neurons of the brain and the memory cells and retain those impressions of guilt and condemnation that you have. And what did the Master say? I am come that ye might have abundant life. I am come that ye might have life, and that more abundantly. Why, watch as the drama unfolds and see the shell, the eggshell of life just crack under this blinding, blazing metamorphosis, this great change that comes, and then all at once we look and we say, why, everything is just the same, but I feel different about it. You see, it's all here. A man may have a feeling of guilt and condemnation and say, I am not worthy, O Lord, to inhabit your heaven. I'm here on earth, and I deserve, I'm sure, to go wherever the children go that have failed to keep thy commandments and to love thee properly. Inwardly we consent to this. We allow the perfect matrix of our brain to hold the imperfect thought of ourselves. And in the holding of this thought for ourselves, or the chastening, permanent chastening of others, and I'm not referring to the ability of man to be able to judge right and wrong acts and what is a right and wrong act, but I'm talking about the permanent chastening because we never allow ourselves to enter the newness of life. But instead, we become confined within the old prison houses of our darkness and our imaginations. And our foolish heart, as St. Paul said, was darkened. Our heart is darkened because we will not allow ourselves to see on the horizon of our own life the time when we become the avatar. Do you think, in God's name, in the name of the God of love, in the name of the living Christ, do you think that any in this world, I do not care who they are, who are the avatars, who are the sons of God, to those who are called according to his purpose, to those who are chosen, whether they dwell in India, or whether they dwell in America, or South America down in the Amazon, or up at the North Pole or the South Pole in an igloo, wherever they are. They who are avatars, the sons of God, the flowers breathing forth the fragrances of heaven into space, these do not want to hold you back. They only want to kindle in you a flame and a fire as to what you will be. They want you to get the vision of yourself as this. But for goodness sakes, don't be stuck up by it. Because this will cast you down, and all your progress will be turned into retrogression. We have enough of these people in the world today. In the Summit Lighthouse activity, the spiritual hierarchy, they want you to manifest the power of the avatar. It's time that some of you begin to manifest precipitation. It's time that some of you begin to manifest dominion over demons. Oh yes. Sweat Hog is here in Denver. That, of course, is a manifestation of a demon. Those people today, the fallen Atlanteans and those who have fitted themselves into the matrices of Atlantis, who are now delivering the specific rock and roll tactics to the world, whose vibrations are turning our young people into pathways of darkness. These are manipulated by demons as a puppeteer plays with his little puppets. The demons move through their consciousness. They control them. It gives them a field day in the world. They are no longer confined to the Hades of darkness. They are now given entree into the world, into our world, to our young people, to those that God and Saint Germain and Jesus and all the great masters would nurture and guide. It doesn't matter that you have made a mistake or that I have made a mistake. The point is, we are going to come to the area where we will not make mistakes, because we are dealing with the principles of heaven. We are dealing with the principles of immortality. Unless he be born in thee, his birth in Bethlehem remains in vain for thee. And so what is an incarnation? If a man would be an incarnation such as Lord Krishna, or what if one would be an incarnation such as Lord Shankaracharya? What difference would it make? These examples are set before you by the living God in obscure places on the earth, so that you may understand that there is a phenomenal manifestation here and there on the planet, that there has been such a phenomenal manifestation upon the planet in the past, that holy men and saints do come from somewhere and go somewhere, that you came from somewhere and you will go somewhere and you are in the process of going, that movement and function is taking place in your lives, whether it be retrogressive or whether it be progressive. Heaven is now, according to the cries of man, reaching to the position where heaven demands from the lives of those who are dedicated to Saint Germain, to Jesus, and to every one of the great masters, a new form of life, a new lifestyle in the mood and fashion of the angels on your part. It is not enough to carry the crutch, the cane, the appliance of man's inability to locomote. No, none of that is enough. We need now to realize that all infirmities must be put aside. When we read Moria's words, even the best zurnas lacked some strings, we are reminded that out of infirmity sometimes the greatest strength is born. We can, if we will, coddle ourselves Any of us can do this. But we are not here to condemn one another, but to give one another this firmness that lays hold on life and grasps it and says, this tender hand I hold is a hand of flesh, and knows that this hand I hold is the living God. What is meant by a new heart of flesh is the contrasting of the stony heart of man's feelings that reject man made in the image of God constantly and sit in critical judgment upon their fellow men, those whom they even know not. Ours must be a message of infinite love, and we must demonstrate that love to the world. We must show that we have greater capacities, greater storehouses in reserve than has ever before been thought possible by us. I urge you today to increase your own belief in the potential of God inside of you. I urge you to stop placing the lines of limitation upon yourself. I do not mean that the just limitations imposed upon us by God should be revoked. For the world is governed somewhat by all of this. It would be a sad thing indeed if people were to reach the form of magic, as in the book The Morning of the Magicians, and if our consciousness would become absorbed with how much magic or phenomena we could do. This is not the pathway toward light. In the greater light of heaven, all share equally in the government of heaven. But when you deal with a child that is maturing, you wait until he has come of years to give him his inheritance. For to give it prematurely unto man's hand would surely establish rivalry, for he would not yet understand the great capacities that are given to a Christ, which we hold within the chalice cup of the Last Supper within ourselves. The Last Supper signifying the finality of our own individual communion with God, when we will take from his hand the torch that heaven has already passed, and holding it into our grasp and consciousness, see clearly that we have a reasonable power to prevail upon heaven and demand at this Last Supper the vestments, the garments of the Christ, to walk the earth as an ascended being. We have the right to ask, and it shall be given unto us. To seek, and we shall find. To knock, and it shall be opened unto us. There has been too much limitation in the world and too much criticism. Too much self-imposed criticism. And yet indulgence lingers. Self-indulgence as well, where we find ourselves face to face with varying potentialities, manifold potentialities, in fact. And we stand for a moment in confusion, our minds literally reeling. Which way shall I go, Lord? I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. If any man climb up any other way, he is both a thief and a robber. We understand then that it is not just to seize control of the power strings of heaven that we live, but to master ourselves and say, as a little child would say, even when we already know that we are a man, O God, I am thine. I came into this world to minister unto thine. I pray only that they may receive thee as I have received thee. For thou art the dawn of purpose, the zenith of purpose, and the setting sun of purpose fulfilled. The long day of life is a day that has no end in reality. For when purpose is fulfilled, we behold again the dawn. And thy cycles proceed in orderly fashion from thy hand. And there is no ceasing of the flow of thy energy and thy plan. And thy plan for me is as clear as the crystal sea. And I wait upon thee, O God. And then you see, all at once, we're going to feel a little different toward everyone. We don't stand and look at the halt and the lame and the blind. We don't stand and look at those who are in error's way as if we would mimic them or criticize them, nor even the haltingness of self when we ourselves falter on the way. But we keep our eyes unflinchingly upon the goal of our God presence, and we see in that presence the restoration of our domain and the restoration of the destiny of man. And we perceive that all purpose, both that which is in east and west and north and south, is indeed the flaming power that is held by the wind to carry the seeds, the divine seeds, over the whole earth, and to kindle a fire upon earth that shall never be extinguished or burn out. Because that which is on earth here below will only be a memorial to that which is already established above. Perfection and life and paradise and the Eden of purpose. This is destiny. We are destiny. But be not afraid to cast our weight upon the magic carpet of the wind of the moment, for it too will carry us where we ought to go as our mind directs it in its course. And our mind is best when harnessed by God's mind. And to invoke His purpose is to secure His assistance. And so as we ponder then this day the matter of the avatar, let us see this individual as an example only, and see ourselves as the avatar, as the Son of God, as the Master of purpose. For only then will all of heaven be satisfied with us. They expect, as we also ought to expect, no fragmentation of purpose, but a unification of the whole. And when the unification is achieved, and when the divine sense is completed within ourselves, then all will be fulfilled. We must perceive the mastery of cycles that climbs the steps to the landing, and then onward to the next step and the next landing, and does not falter because of the austerity or longevity of the stairways that are there to climb, but rather receive these stairs with joy and place our feet upon them and see that in the climb is the great challenge of life. And who cannot say that a greater elevator of the wind will not also come and bear us away beyond those stairs at some point in our development, where the Godhead suddenly says to His lofty sons and daughters, you have struggled now many a year and cycle to complete thy destiny. Thy feet have wandered far, and you have not perceived the beauty in my star. And now I claim you. I claim your vow. I lift you, I bring you now unto my heart. This great magnet of fiery destiny is fulfilled within you. This is the purpose of life. For lo, in you I am. Do you see how simple it really is and how beautiful it is? Not a struggle of little people trying to fulfill some greater purpose and yet manifesting the shades of ugliness, but instead all people, both great and small, all people fulfilling their purposes together and coinciding in the only way that man can with perfect unity. For who amongst us can in 1 year meet all of the people that are upon this planet, or upon the whole organ of heaven? Can we play upon this great organ with our fingers? Can our fingers, the fingers of our minds, span the octaves of universal being? See the great chords that are there, or hear them? Our ears are not able. And so, through the process of union with God, we are able to be truly united in the only way man ever can be, and that is with the highest self of all. Let us be up and doing, as Jesus said long ago, cannot ye watch with me 1 hour? Our whole life, and all that remains of it now, all that is in the hourglass, is just 1 hour. You understand? 1 hour remains, and all shall be fulfilled. This whole lifespan is that hour. But there is a day also, and a year, and a cycle, and a cosmos, and eternity. Let the smile of cosmic purpose rest upon our heart's chalices today. And let us determine, through no outer world drama, but through the hidden drama of the heart, that we will fulfill our destiny, that we will make this order one of infinite dedication, and so the world shall be blessed by that dedication, and each of us in return shall receive the mantle of our united reward. God bless you.